And we are recording this meeting and the presentations will be available on our YouTube channel. So today you're going to be hearing about some important topics in fair housing, as well as changes to the Chfa programs that expand homeownership opportunities to more qualified buyers. We're also going to have some prize drawings we're going to be doing during the presentation. We'll be giving away some Fair Housing for All t-shirts, as well as a $100 Visa gift card. And everyone that's attending the meeting is eligible, whether you're via Zoom or in person. We're going to do those drawings a little bit later on. In addition, anyone who takes the fairhaven.realtor online simulation by May 31st is also going to be entered into a drawing for a $100 Visa gift card. Fairhaven.realtor is an interactive online simulation that NAR created to help identify, prevent, and address discriminatory practice in real estate. And you can access the simulation at fairhaven.realtor.
Fairhaven or Fair Housing?
It's Fairhaven.
I thought it was the real Fairhaven, but it's not.
Yeah, and I'll send a link in the, I'll send a follow-up email to all the attendees with copies of the presentation, the link to the Zoom presentation, and also to the fairhaven.realtor. Okay, so our first presenters are Kelly Harvey and Michele Erling, two real estate experts. Kelly and Michele have forged a strong professional partnership during their 11 years regulating the real estate industry in Connecticut through their positions as real estate examiners and investigators at the Connecticut Department of Consumer Protection. As licensed real estate brokers with a strong work ethic, they have a genuine interest in the industry from the legal compliance side, as well as the successful practice side. After retirement, they decided to continue their commitment by forming a new way to use their expertise in the practice of real estate. Kelly and Michele bring a unique perspective to advising, educating, and guiding licensees in building a business that will be compliant with the law. So now I'm going to turn it over to Kelly and Michele.
Hi guys, I will start. I am Kelly. Michele, as was discussed, as stated, was my former counterpart at DCP. She actually trained me when I got there. So we create our courses and do trainings and consulting together because we feel two heads are better than one. And we just work well together, and I think we both are equally driven. So when we were asked to do this presentation, we were quite pleased actually, because it allowed us to not only talk about you know, the importance of home ownership opportunities and how agents handle these first-time home buyers, but also fair housing and compliance with the law when it comes to representing these folks. So we hope you enjoy our presentation, and let's see, we'll switch to the first slide here. So 4 questions from buyers that, if answered, might lead to a claim of discrimination. Okay, so question 1, is this a good place to raise a family? So, you know, either way you answer this question, it can have a negative consequence. If you admit that the neighborhood's not all that family friendly, it could imply that families with kids aren't welcome. On the flip side, however, if you state that it's a great place for kids, as you know, that might just be your general normal way to respond, that could be interpreted as saying a purchaser without children may not be welcome. Either answer could be a form of discrimination depending on how it's interpreted, right? It doesn't matter the intent, unfortunately. If it can be interpreted as a violation, there can be a complaint filed, right? So realtors who appear to encourage or discourage a home purchase on the kid question may just find themselves defending a claim of discrimination. What one person's idea of a great neighborhood or area to raise a family in might not be yours, right? Everyone has their own criteria for what makes, you know, a place perfect for them. In fact, I'm going to restate here what I always discuss when I teach my mandatory law class, right? I cringe when I see perfect for perfect for in the MLS descriptions or in advertisements, right? And the reason I cringe is because a home is perfect for anyone that thinks it's perfect for them. Who are we to determine whom a home is perfect for, right? So often that statement ends up being discriminatory, without ever intending it to be so. The finishing that sentence can very easily fall under a discriminatory category. So I'll tell you, I mean, I'm a broker and I tell my agents, I don't ever want to see perfect for in any of your advertising, right? Our job as realtors is to give options and choices, not to make choices for our clients. And I understand that, we do want to try to narrow in on what it is that they're looking for, but that should be square footage, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms. Let them make the choice of, area. Let them determine if it's an area that they can raise their family in, right? Okay, the second question would be, what's the neighborhood like? If you ask a friend this question, you might hear a very opinionated, descriptive response. But as a realtor, we most certainly should steer clear, particularly when it comes to race, because such discussions come uncomfortably close to redlining, right? If a client wants to get a sense of an area's ethnic makeup, they can go to U.S. Census website, which is at www.census.gov, and it has all the info you need. And those sources will certainly be more accurate than one person's opinion. You can also find out about a neighborhood at realtor.com, right, /local, which has a message board where you can query people living in the area. So you don't ever, and of course you always want to, if you're going to give a place where they can find information, don't ever give just one source, and let them know there's many sources out there, but only you can determine what the neighborhood is like. I don't know what the neighborhood is like, only you can determine that. And that's a loaded question in my opinion, right? What is it like in terms of what? And regardless of the question, you don't live there. So number one, you probably wouldn't be able to answer it even if it was legal to answer, because you don't live there. But secondly, that's a loaded question, because what's the neighborhood like, in my opinion, likely has that underlying discriminatory piece to it, right? If they want to know more specifics about the neighborhood, like, how many children are in the neighborhood or whatever, they can find that information on their own. And like I said, they can go to the US Census website, and it gives a ton of information on all kinds of criteria, including racial makeup and things. But that's not for us to give them the information, print reports, nothing. You need to let them know that there are several areas they can do research on, and always give more than one. Don't ever just give one, right? So question 3, is this area safe? This is another opinionated response, that would be given friend to friend, but a realtor cannot provide a direct answer to this question. There are very beneficial crime statistics available to clients seeking such information. One place is if you type in my local crime, you can access any recent local crimes, from vandalisms to shootings. A map will point them to the area where the crimes happen, so the client can make their own determination based on the information obtained. This particular site uses police call logs, police incident reports, and other news services to compile information. If they plug in an address, they're going to get information regarding the surrounding area. It provides them with the source of the information, which may very well be a police report number. And when they click on the link, they're brought to proper police department, like where the report was filed, and the police department's contact information for the client to continue the research. This, of course, is just one of many options for your clients seeking the answers to their questions. Research and more research on their part is the key, right? What is their definition of safety, right? Of safe. Only they can determine that. So that is only one place. Again, I say have them and encourage them to talk to neighbors if they want to do that. Encourage them to look at the local, they can look at the local newspapers if they want and purview them. Most towns have that local small paper, but it's not anything that we can speak to because it most likely is going to come down to discrimination. Question number 4, how are the schools here? Because race often appears to play a big role when it comes to a report card, a realtor has to be very careful not to let their answer be construed as a coded message about race. Rather than risk an offensive or misunderstood statement, a realtor's best option is to introduce the client to websites that rank schools, such as School Digger. Another option, if the client has their heart set on their child attending a certain school, is to advise them to download Realtor.com's mobile app, which allows a search for homes for sale by school district. The other piece to this is, and I will say just from a personal standpoint, how are the schools here? Who determines what one's understanding of a good school is, right? There's many different criteria that people rely on. Of course, there's test scores, but I'm going to be honest with you, from a personal standpoint, I have 2 grown children, right? I have a 30-year-old and a 25-year-old. They went to school, they went to college, they now have successful careers. Because my kids were extremely sports-minded and very involved in sports, actually one of them played Division I in college, what we looked for in a school was different than what many other people may look for. Honestly, to us, it was a school that was very big, a town that had a very big sports atmosphere, because we knew that that's what was going to keep our kids ingrained in their studies and wanting to do well, because if they didn't do well, they weren't going to be able to continue to play on the team, right? We live in a town with very competitive athletics. So it worked to our benefit. Not all people are going to care about that. So you don't know what someone's consideration for how are the schools is, right? I mean, it really is very, very personal. So the other thing is, we all know that the MLS data sheet states information reliable but not guaranteed. So it's all the more reason for your clients to do their own diligence in researching what is important to them. Because what if the school that's listed is misstated, right? What if districts changed? Because it happens all the time. We need to be sure that they're getting the information that they need, okay? So we have the different areas. So there is the schooldigger.com that I talked about. There's the www.census.gov/topics/education. There's realtor.com's mobile app. And then there's, it's called adamdata.com. It's school attendance areas data, and it allows, I was on it yesterday, I was very intrigued. It allows your client to discuss what's important to them in a school, rather than potentially getting into a discussion that puts you in a violation of fair housing laws. They literally can go in there, and it looks like they can kind of communicate with other people in school systems and things. That's the way I saw it, right? So give them the tools and let them do their research. So here was an example of one of the, and it's really an example they gave. So I don't even know if this is, I assume this is a real area, but it's interesting because it gives so much information, and the grade spans, it's not an overall, the entire K through 12. It does break it down from elementary, middle, high schools. It has the exact district. the contact information, right? And of course, they can also go on the Department of Education website too. There's so many places they can go. But it's just, I found it to be a very interesting website that had so much information, and again, appeared to have an area where people could genuinely communicate with other folks in certain districts and things. You know, it confirms what streets certain school districts are in. You know, you can send them the atomdata.com. It houses school attendance areas, data, and so much more. Beyond school ratings, the data provided includes much greater information. While finding a home in a quality district is certainly important, the individual schools assigned to the home are even more critical to prospective home buyers, especially those with school-age children, as different schools within the same school district can have wildly varying quality, student achievement, program focus, and that's what I was discussing, right? I wanted sports as a focus, extracurricular activities, same thing, and athletic programs, right? That's why I was really intrigued by this site. All of this information is available to your clients without your involvement in their very personal decisions. They don't need to tell you what they're looking for or why they're looking for it. That's personal. So to me, this gives them a fabulous, fabulous opportunity. But again, don't just give them that site. Give them lots of different places to look, right? So this is not one of the 4 questions, but it's something that came up in one of my mandatory law courses that I did. So I did reach out to Aaron Kempel at Fair Housing, and we had a really great discussion on the Connecticut Fair Housing Center. We had a really great discussion on this, right? So what if a client inquires about a group home in the neighborhood? It is illegal to inform a buyer about the presence of a group home. You can discuss a neighborhood, home, location, or community in terms of who lives there. You cannot, I'm sorry, as it violates fair housing laws, right? With regard to this question, it's illegal because people with disabilities includes anyone with a substance abuse problem, children with mental disabilities, homes for people with permanent physical disabilities, etc. It's the same as informing someone that there are people who are Black living in your neighborhood. You can't discuss a neighborhood, home, location, community in terms of who lives there. Saying it's good for families with children, no people live here who are Latino, a group home is down the street, is all the same. It all violates the fair housing laws. It is all illegal, also illegal to answer the question about group homes if it is asked, just like it is illegal to answer a question about whether any of the neighbors are Black or Latino or families with children live there, etc. So know that. So Michelle's gonna take over here, right? And you know, in today's competitive market, homeownership may begin with leasing for a period of time, right? Because it's just absolutely crazy right now. People might think they're going to buy a home and then they can't find something, right? So with rental markets equally as competitive, realtors need to understand fair housing as it applies to the process of renting and their role in equal opportunity. So Michelle will speak to you on this.
Ellie?
Yes.
I didn't know if you could hear me or not. I wanted to just make a couple comments about what you were talking about as far as neighborhood. You know, long ago, and I don't know if it's still the same way, that you would tell a client that if they want to know about a neighborhood, they have the right to go and visit the neighborhood. You know, they can, you know, knock on a door, see a neighbor out mowing their lawn, is just next door to me. They were mowing the lawn.
Yeah, Michelle asked me, can you hear them mowing the lawn? I said, no, we can't hear it.
Like of all the times they could show up, right? And so they can get their own you know, idea of whether it's the kind of neighborhood they want. They, you know, they want a busy neighborhood, they want a quiet neighborhood, whatever. That, you know, they don't want any traffic. And regarding the schools, because you and I had talked about this, when my kids were in school, which was before yours, we were particularly interested in the arts, because, music, art, and theater, because that's what they were interested in. They weren't big sports people, as my husband and I are not. And so when we were trying to decide where they were going to go to school, we were looking at those programs that they had. And for them, they ended up in Catholic school, which we had to pay for those extra programs, but, it was worth it. And like you, they're both adults. They're both very successful in their careers, and they're self-supporting, which is good. The thing that you
Key.
want when they come out of school, right? So anyway, I'm going to talk about rentals a bit, because in this climate, so many people are not getting what they want, which is their, home, first home, perhaps. And so the rental market has become extremely competitive as well, with lots of things, going on as far as how do I get the rent as opposed to somebody else. These are two actual investigations that we did at Consumer Protection, and they both took part down in the southern area of Connecticut.
And I just want to interject and say that we have the legal authority to share these, not authority, the legal right, because they are, we received them via FOI. We knew that we processed these cases, but now that they're closed, they become a matter of public information. So we don't want anybody to think that we took anything with us when we left DCP. This was received via an FOI.
As we danced out the door, right? So the first one, there was a landlord who lived out of state. He had a very large home that he had lived in, but he was had been transferred, and he listed his rental home with a local realtor at a monthly price of over $5,000, which at the time, because it was a few years ago, was very high. There were several interested parties, including a family from Europe, who the landlord rejected because there was no way to run a credit check on them because they didn't have a social security number, and getting references was not probably going to happen either, because again, they were coming from a country in Europe to a job in the United States, but there was no background that he could get. And he felt that those two things, the credit check and the references, were very important to him. A prospective tenant was presented by another brokerage with a proposal to rent the property. Part of their proposal was to pay 6 months rent up front and put the other 6 months in escrow. And that was to make them look solid and advantageous to him. They said with the prepaid rent, they did not need to provide a credit check because he would have effectively a year. He'd have a year up front, and then at the 6 month period, they would start putting it in escrow again for him. The listing agent stated that they would make great tenants. She had known them for years, and her children were friends with their children in and out of school. The landlord asked if it was legal to take more than 2 months security and 1 month's rent, and the listing agent said it was done all the time. And that was a specific question he had to her. He agreed to accept them on her advice without the credit check based on her personal recommendation, but he asked for references. The lease was signed. The listing agent never provided any references. He was out of state. The references were coming. The lease was going back and forth, and that was, the end of that. And he never got the references. The tenants moved in, and very shortly afterwards, they started making excessive demands regarding changes in the home, which he was not willing to do. He wouldn't agree because that was his home when he came back. If he came back, he wanted it in the same condition. He didn't want them making any kind of structural cosmetic changes. It got contentious, and the tenants filed a civil suit against the landlord for violating Connecticut law on security deposits and prepaid rent, which they had offered. He had never asked for. It ended up, he filed with us, and he also filed the civil suit back at them, but they actually won their case, and he had to repay them all of the rent that they had paid because it was against the law, even though he asked the question and there were emails regarding the question. So under Connecticut law, any prepaid rent is legally considered a security deposit, whether the parties call it that or not. The landlord may not collect more than 2 months in advance and must account for interest for the prepaid rent. A security deposit is any advance rental payment other than an advance for the first month's rent or a deposit for a key or any special equipment. A security deposit remains the tenant's property, but the landlord holds a security interest in it. Security deposits must be kept in an escrow account in a Connecticut bank where they, collect the interest, and they're supposed to every year give the money back, the interest back, unless the tenant says, just, keep on going with it. If you are 62 or older, they can only take 2 months rent, to security and the first month's rent. So 2 total months they can take if you're over 62, and that's part of the law. So in his case, yes, it was against the law what he did. And yes, it probably was, especially in the town that this was in.
You mean, Michelle, excuse me, you mean 1 month's rent, right?
Pardon me?
For 60, you mean 1 month?
Yeah, 62, 1 month's rent and 1 month's
Yeah,
security.
1 month. Okay.
Yeah, and for this particular investigation, it probably was done a lot in this particular town based on the town and the residences, et cetera. But that didn't make it legal. And the agent telling him that basically made him lose all his money, in addition to he never got a credit report, which their credit was not good, and he never got the references. So it was a very unfortunate situation. The second one, also down in the southern end of the state, is a man, an elderly man, had a home that he had never rented anything before, and it was another local real estate agent, because that's, typically, that what people do with a rental is somebody who's there, who's familiar with the area. He was looking for someone with good credit, who would not present any problems to him. He was in his 80s and he had never rented property before, so he was unfamiliar with, the way it went. He said that the realtor said that they would provide a credit check and references, and then he would be able to determine who he wanted to choose. The real estate agent contacted him with a prospective tenant who needed a place within 48 hours, as she had all her personal belongings on a moving truck. Again, this was another expensive house. And she was moving from the city back to the town she grew up in. He asked if they had a credit check. She said no, but everyone knew her parents and they were very well respected. She also stated that the woman was an artist who lived in New York City and had sold artwork in galleries. She encouraged him to take her, even though she asked, the prospective tenant asked, to pay the security and rent in stages during the first couple of months, as she was waiting for funds from her previous rental. The landlord questioned whether this was a good, dependable person. The realtor said she highly recommended her based on her personal knowledge of who she was and who her parents were. The landlord agreed. The tenant moved in a day later with all her stuff that was on the truck and never paid another cent rent or towards security. After several months of promises, the landlord started the eviction process, costing him more money. During the legal process, it was discovered through a credit check that the tenant had very bad credit, with judgments against her by different entities, and had been to housing court and evicted more than once. The landlord never recovered any monies from the tenant. So what went wrong here, and I'd be interested if people actually have opinions on this. When you list a property for lease, the fiduciary duty that you have is, includes collecting applications, credit checks, references. If you don't offer that, and you say, we don't do that, but we'll show the house, that's one thing. But once you say that we provide a credit check, if you require it from one tenant, then you have to require it from every prospective tenant. It's not the realtor's decision to determine who is creditworthy based on personal knowledge or relationships with a prospective tenant, or random recommendations by people who are not part of the transaction. So it's a credit check for one, credit check for all. It's reverse discrimination to determine one tenant is more desirable based on a personal relationship or local status. If a landlord states to a realtor prior to the listing the rental that they will not accept a tenant for a reason other than the accepted reasons, that is unacceptable to you as a realtor, and you should not accept the listing. There are many protected classes in federal and Connecticut fair housing law, including lawful source of income. Section 8 is a lawful source of income. If constricting parameters are put on the criteria for renting, a realtor should turn down the listing. So I am wondering if anybody's had this kind of thing, happen to them, or if they've, sometimes locally it is an issue that, somebody knows somebody, and as a realtor, under, the law and your code of ethics, it doesn't make any difference what somebody thinks locally. You have to follow the rules. And it's become a situation probably not unlike in trying to get a house, where people are using in, prospective tenants and getting a rental, side notes, side information, contacting, let's say, the owner to let them know, who they are, and see if they can sway them in that way. But you as a realtor cannot be part of that.
I can't remember his last name. Not very many.
Kelly,
Yeah,
do you
I'm
think?
not saying anything. Somebody else is talking. Anybody have
Okay.
any comments, please? Like, any thoughts on this? Okay, so we will go to the next slide and you can discuss that, and then I will look at the chat, Michelle.
Okay, so, these are the acceptable reasons for denial. An owner should use same criteria to make decision and follow the same process for everyone. Lack of quality references, history of evictions, insufficient income, low credit scores. Those are acceptable reasons for denial. If there's something else involved, and I mean, if you're into the, the transaction and you find out about it, that's one thing. But if they tell you up front, for instance, that they don't want children, then you need to walk away, because that is discriminatory. So if you are doing rentals, especially as the listing agent, you have to be very careful.
Right. So let me, give me a second. I'm going to look at chat. Yeah, so the bottom line is the state security deposit rules and pets, it's illegal under federal law to charge an extra pet deposit for people with trained service animals. So you can't charge for a trained service animal. And I want to say that I will get back to everybody on this. I will send it and have research and have it sent out by the board. I want to say that a pet fee is different than a pet security deposit. The security deposit is something that's returned later on. And I'm pretty sure the security deposit has to include even for pets, but I believe that they can charge a pet fee, which is not refundable. But I am going to confirm that and have that sent out to everybody along with our presentation. I will get that information within minutes after finishing, okay? But if it's a service animal, you cannot charge anything if somebody is coming with a service animal because they have a disability, right? So always do a credit check. Exactly. What about application timeline? Like if your tenant pays an application fee to apply, the company states they will have an answer by Monday, and by Wednesday say they will not have an answer for you because they're waiting for a more favorable candidate. I don't know. Under real estate licensing law, there's nothing that speaks to that. So I really couldn't answer that question. Whether or not there's something that speaks to it with, and it wouldn't fall under fair housing. So honestly, I
Yeah.
don't know that there is any legal
Yeah.
requirement. I mean, I think it's probably the same as when, a owner of a property. Oh yeah, well, we're gonna, we have 37 offers. We're gonna make our decision in 2 days. Well, guess what? A week from now, if they haven't made their decision, that's their right. They own the property.
And
You
Kelly-
could retract. Yes.
I've been over many times pretty thoroughly, the handbook, the rental handbook from, from the court system.
Yes.
And, an owner of a property leasing is no different really than an owner of a property selling. When they make the decision, they make the decision.
Right. Right.
They say something but that doesn't mean, I don't think that they should say that they're waiting for more favorable.
Yeah, right, exactly. Although, hey, if that's the truth, if they're waiting for more favorable, right?
But, no, they're not jurisdict by anybody.
Right.
The owner.
Right.
Right.
So, so that's really it for our presentation. But again, I am going to find out the answer about the pet thing, and I'm going to literally add it on to the appropriate slide so that you guys have the information at your fingertips. And then, excuse me, I'll send it to the board and they'll be sending it out.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we have one question here. John, go ahead, ask you for a couple of questions here.
It's the same.
This whole business of service animals and emotional support animals is just a huge mess right now, as far as I'm concerned.
I understand what you're saying. And,
Basically, the way the law reads, you can't ask someone, a service animal is defined as an animal that performs a service.
right.
Maybe a medical service animal, maybe he goes out and gets the newspaper every morning.
Correct.
There has to be a defined service, but.
Well, they have to be certified.
Yeah, they're not
They have to be
therapy.
certified.
To
not
certify, to get a certification can cost as much as $15,000-$20,000.
No, not at all.
No, we had a discussion with a guy who certified animals, and he said depending on what the need is, it could be really expensive.
But it doesn't. It has to be certified from a medical professional. The medical professional has to certify the animal as an assistance animal. I'm not saying certified in terms of an animal that truly helps you do whatever. I'm talking about, and the landlord's not paying for the certification. So it has to be certified.
We have a co-op in Hamden, and their policy has always been no, or not always, but a number of years ago, they said no pets.
Right. But the no pets law is not no pets if it's a person qualifying under a disability, right? That's talked about in the Connecticut mandatory law course. There's a big section on that.
I'm saying that the majority of the people, many people abused the law. They said, "Oh, this is my service animal." One case, she worked and she'd leave the dog in the house all day, and the dog would bark all day. She'd come home, let the dog out the back, wouldn't go out with him. The dog would come back into the house, and that happened every single day.
But here's the thing, right? Number one, the dog has to be certified by a medical professional, and it's not just as simple as getting a certification from the internet. HUD has very specific things that the landlord can ask for, and it's a very specific certificate. They had to have been seen. The tenant had to have been seen by the medical professional for the medical professional to determine if there is this need, and if the animal is a nuisance or the animal is a threat to others. And I would say letting an animal out unattended could become a threat to others. Then the landlord does have a right to approach that person and let them know that they need to mitigate this. They need to be able to fix the nuisance issues. And, you know, they do have the right and the opportunity to try to fix that, but I don't think they have the right to just leave an animal in the house barking, you know, morning till night. I would suggest seeking the advice of an attorney on that. But again, it's, you know, when you say they just call it a service animal, that doesn't give them the right to
And those
rent the
animals are
property.
trained. Those animals are trained to serve
But
those people.
those animals are not an emotional support animal.
No, right, exactly. That's just a whole nother thing.
At least a few years ago, the rule was you couldn't ask if it was a certified animal. Now, maybe
Have
they
you
changed
taken,
it.
yes, have you taken the mandatory law course yet?
Yeah.
Okay, well, in the mandatory law course, it was very specific, and you should have received a printout of that course. And I suggest that you review that, because the law is very clear that you do have the right to get verification that this is a true assistance animal, a certified, approved assistance animal by a medical professional. So, I mean, it's very important that you be aware of HUD's requirements and what you and a landlord can or cannot do. So if you, you know, get a copy of the mandatory law course that you've already taken, and it is the very last few slides of the course, and it talks in detail. And you can also go to, HUD has a website. And again, I have a very specific website you can go to that talks about this, and I will also send that out along with the slides so that you can view what the landlord's rights are specifically, because it's a lot more than you're realizing it is.
This is a co-op, so there's
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't make any difference.
Does not make any difference. Even if the bylaws say no pets, that doesn't mean no pets for someone that has a disability with a certified animal. That goes out the window. And that is very clearly stated in the mandatory course and in the law. But I will send that information out so that you'll be able to review it yourself.
He's just not listening.
Okay, so
So my question was kind of similar in there, where I worked for a big property management. We took all pets. When my clients needed to, and they didn't like the apartment, or they wanted something else outside with other offices, sometimes it specifically said no pets at all, even if we had a certification.
no, violation of law. And there have been cases in Connecticut specifically where condo associations have literally been sued because that is a violation of law. You cannot deny someone who has a need that is certified and that a medical professional has provided a certificate for. It doesn't matter if your bylaws say no pets. That goes out the window when it comes to fair housing.
That also goes if the landlord lives on premises, so let's say they live on a 2 or 3 family house on a certain floor, that
No.
goes towards that too, right?
No, not for a disability animal, no.
Okay.
Someone that, you know, they can deny someone based on familial status. If they live in the 3 family house, they live on one of the floors, they are on title to the property, they are a true owner to the property. It's not like the elderly mother lives there. They do have the right to say that they're not going to take someone because they have children, but they can't advertise that, and they can't use a real estate licensee, because Code of Ethics says that realtors do not have the ability via ethics to discriminate in any way, shape, or form. So if a client comes to you and says, I want you to list my property for lease, but I don't want to rent to anybody with children, and I have that right because I'm the owner that lives here, you need to tell them you have that right, but I don't. I can't help you. You can certainly lease the property on your own and advise them that they can't advertise no children, but they have the legal authority, the legal right to say, I'm not going to rent to this person because they have children, I'll rent to this person instead, as long as they don't advertise that. But that does not, the service animals does not fall under that, right to discriminate. It's not an exemption.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
A question. Can emotional support dogs be certified too as well?
Well, yeah, they have to, yes, emotional support animals have to also be certified by a medical professional. So it's not that the dog goes through any training, it's that the medical professional certifies that, yes, this person needs an emotional support animal, and this is the animal that they're going to have as an emotional support animal. Unfortunately, it's not trained the way the other service animals are trained. So that's why I'm going to send out the link when they send out this presentation today. I'm going to send you on the correct slide. I'm going to put the link to HUD where they talk about the landlord's rights, and it's very clearly discusses this. And in terms of asking for veterinary records for the animal, no, there are, HUD has very clear statement of what you can ask for. And again, it will be in the literature I send you. And can you have 2 emotional support dogs? I don't know the answer to that. I would say call Connecticut Fair Housing. But I would imagine that my opinion is maybe only if there's 2 different people with 2 different animals, but I don't know. That's just a thought that came into my head. I would suggest calling Erin Kemple at Connecticut Fair Housing to find out that answer to that question about if you can have 2 or not. I don't know that HUD, I haven't seen HUD make any statement on that in the literature that I'm going to send you. Anybody else?
And do short-term rentals have different rules on that? Because I have Airbnbs and they said you don't have to accept an emotional support animal, but you have to accept a certified animal. But if you have an allergy-free household, it's almost like a hotel, then you don't have to accept, no?
They're
Well, I don't
certified.
think-
Emotional support animal has to get
Right.
certified by a medical professional. So if it's simply you saying, this is my emotional support animal, correct, they don't have to accept it. The link that I'm going to send you to HUD gives you the very specific documentation that the potential tenant would need to have for the landlord to be required to accept. So I will send you that. It's lengthy. It's like 7 pages, but it is amazing information for you guys to read through.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. It's a ton of great information.
Well, you're
Looking
welcome.
forward
And
to
I will
getting
Thank you.
I'll send that to you, Rachel, so that I'll fix the slides so that it incorporates what we just spoke about.
Okay, great. All right.
Thank
so
you.
Before we move on to the second part of our presentation with Rita, talking about the Chfa updates, I'm going to announce a couple of the Fair Housing for All t-shirt drawing winners. First 2 are Erica Salazar, here, yay, and then Judean Brown, who is attending via Zoom. So,
Hi,
Judean,
I'm here.
hey. I'll shoot you an email after the presentation. And next we have Rita Bellinger, Single Family Operations Officer from Chfa, Connecticut Housing Finance Authority, to talk about program changes and updates to the Chfa programs.
Okay, can everyone see my presentation okay and hear me okay?
Your presentation's not up yet, but we can see and hear you.
Uh-oh. Okay.
It's coming. There you go. There you go. All set.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bernadette, for coordinating this, and I'm in such great company. I think the best resource here, I think others would agree with me, is hearing all of this information directly from the source. I know I always learn something with these, so we really appreciate that opportunity. So at CHFA, we have had so many program updates and changes. I mean, they're just happening every single day. So I'm just going to go over just a quick overview of some things, who the heck we are. If someone doesn't know, I'm going to incorporate changes along the way. Basically, what we have been doing is removing barriers of any unnecessary overlays that we possibly can to keep our program simplified, easier to use for your lenders, your partner lenders, and allowing the realtor to assist more buyers to enjoy the benefits of below market interest rate first mortgages and second mortgages for down payment and closing cost assistance, to make it just more attainable for someone to realize homeownership in this challenging market. We realize it's such a challenge, so any place we can, we are making changes. So if anyone doesn't know, we're a self-funded quasi-public organization totally dedicated to alleviating the shortage of housing for specific income families and persons in the state. And the key thing there is we are self-funded. We do not generate, or excuse me, we do not utilize taxpayers' funds. That's probably the number one myth about CHFA. So this is a nice illustration of how we actually generate our funding. So starting at the top, we receive our bonding authority from the state. It allows us to issue the authority to issue tax-exempt mortgage revenue bonds. They're sold on the open market. The proceeds come to us, and that's exactly how we fund our mortgages. So those bonds do have some compliance requirements that cannot be waived. So the first-time home buyer requirement is an expanded definition. It includes someone that has truly never owned a home, been on title or obligated on a mortgage. Expanded definition is someone that actually hasn't been on title or owned a home in the last 3 years. So after the 3 years, we consider them a first-time home buyer again. And if someone has owned a home in the last 3 years, or maybe even currently, they may be eligible for CHFA financing if they're purchasing a property located in a targeted area. I'll show you that. And as long as they will not retain ownership of any other dwelling at the time of closing. And a couple unique features to remember for loans partnered with CHFA, non-occupant co-signers are not eligible for our program, and additional names may not be added to title. So someone's either truly a borrower, therefore they're on title, or they're neither. We do have income and sales price limits that are always in effect. They're reviewed annually by IRS and Treasury, updated accordingly. The income limits, I'll show you, vary by town and county, and they're determined by the number of people, just the number of people that will be living in that household. And then the sales price limits also will apply, and they may vary by town and county. Actually, little news flash, the income and sales price limits are being updated effective May 27th. So you can see that we publish it on our website, and you can also sign up for any of our notifications. All CHFA information is public and it's posted on our website. Also, anyone having a loan partnered with CHFA would be required to participate in free CHFA homebuyer education workshop prior to their loan approval. The pre-purchase one, general overview of the program available for the general public. Pre-closing is an abbreviated version for someone that has a loan in process. An additional landlord education is also required if the borrower is purchasing a 2 to 4 unit home. And we actually have lots of different topics of free education and counseling services, financial fitness, foreclosure prevention. Feel free to check it out on our website. So some of the benefits, why would you want your buyer, or why would your buyer want their loan partnered with our program? Okay, we're not a direct lender. We count on our participating lenders. So some of the benefits when the lender works with them directly is the benefit of our below market interest rates. So if you contact 5 different lenders today on the same exact product, you're going to get 5 different quotes of rates. That's how they generate their income. They can set their own rates. Different when they're partnering a loan with CHFA, regardless of the lender, they can only quote that CHFA fixed below market interest rate. So that will be fixed for the life of the loan, consistent from lender to lender. Second big advantage, most popular, is that down payment assistance. Very challenging market, so CHFA can provide a second mortgage at the same time of the first that can be used for remaining down payment and a portion of the closing costs. Another big advantage, no fees ever to CHFA from any buyer or lender for doing business with our program. And actually, if you looked at a loan estimate side by side with same lender, loan A partnering with CHFA, loan B not partnering with CHFA, you will see that the income fees on the loans not with CHFA are higher. So we absolutely monitor what lenders can charge for income fees. That benefit of the free homebuyer education is also available, partnering a loan with our program. Statistically, they're more likely to be successful in that mortgage, having some type of homebuyer education. There's also targeted areas of the state. In those areas, we offer some additional benefits. We also offer specialty programs where eligible borrowers may receive a reduced CHFA interest rate. And CHFA actually has several, we say lien, you may say delegated lenders that, depending on the product, don't need to submit anything to CHFA prior to closing, and therefore expediting turn times, just the normal turn times as the lenders you're partnering with without us. So some of the main ways that CHFA is different. So the first thing is that we do not self-originate, okay? We count on participating approved lenders in the state to absolutely work independently of CHFA directly with your buyer from start to finish. They're blending the guidelines of all parties, applying the most stringent. It is the lender's responsibility to approve that loan in compliance with all the parties' guidelines. When you check out our CHFA participating lender list published on our website, you'll see it consists of banks, mortgage companies, brokers. Historically, it was mainly banks that supported the program. But when you see the list now, mortgage companies and brokers have really realized that they may not make as much on each loan, but because of that lower interest rate and the additional buying power with that second mortgage, they can assist more buyers than maybe wouldn't be able to realize home ownership. So that has really changed. And then obviously the below market interest rate, even though rates are still fairly low, you want it as low as possible. Our interest rates change at 9 a.m. daily, and we try to stay below market. Our website, chfa.org, the first thing that pops up is we are open for business. There has never been any delay in processing or services of our programs, absolutely at all. Our staff work both remotely as well as in office hours. And all loans, regardless, partnered with CHFA, have to first and foremost meet any and all of the guidelines of the first mortgage product. So whichever the buyer qualifies for, if they qualify for an FHA loan, then they have to, and that property has to meet all FHA guidelines, regardless if it's partnered with our program. So our guidelines may be in addition to, never in place of. Okay, all of the homebuyer education is both available in person if the buyer's comfortable, live virtual benefit via Zoom, or a truly online self-paced module if they have an application in process. And CHFA has always and continues to administer an emergency mortgage assistance program. So if you have any existing Connecticut homeowners in threat of foreclosure, just have them contact CHFA and we have dedicated staff to work with them. And there's also a new program for assistance that I'll let you know at the end. I always like to dispel myths along the way, right? A lot of myths along the way, or you'll definitely hear from lenders that can't partner with our program because they want your business, right? So a CHFA loan would have too much paperwork. Anybody ever heard that? So the truth is, if they're not getting our second mortgage for the down payment assistance, there's only 3 other documents and only 2 are actually signed by the buyer, okay, to have all of those benefits. And if they are applying also for our down payment assistance closing costs, then there's 5 documents that they sign. 5 documents to give them below market interest rate, 1% for down payment and closing costs, absolutely make it more affordable. And then this is our website. Definitely encourage you to visit the website, save it as a favorite. All of our CHFA guidelines are published on our website. If you talk to 5 different participating lenders and you're getting 5 different explanations of something, simply say, I'd love to learn more about that. Could you send me the link to the source of that information from the CHFA website? And that will absolutely clarify if a lender's telling you something accurate, if they're telling you a lender overlay, because CHFA does not have many whatsoever, and we are removing them every day that we can. So some of the key features on our website I'll show you how to access in this training, but in this presentation. And a main thing is stay in touch with CHFA. We invite our partner realtors also. Enter your email address. You can sign up for any CHFA notification you'd like to receive. Interest rates, any update programs, procedure bulletins, and anything unique to real estate agents. We became a real estate school with the help of Kelly's assistants. Thank you so much, because it is so important to get the source of the information directly from us that we offer a free CE course. You can contact us for that. Another myth, don't do a CHFA loan. It's going to take too long. Anybody ever heard that? Okay, so first and foremost, we have lien or delegated lenders. Some products, some lenders, they don't send us anything prior to closing. That means the turn time is just with that lender. If it is a file that needs to submit some documents to us prior to closing, after the lender has cleared it to close, only pending our review, know that our turn times are both published on our website. We did that for you, our partner realtors. I'll show you that. And the current turn time is actually less than 24 hours actually today. So 24 to 48 hours is our average. Anything more than that, errors and omissions in those files, right? If we didn't get everything, we can't review it, and we show you that status as well. This is exactly that feature, probably the most popular feature on our website, loan status information. This is just searching a property address, which is not private information, okay? So if a lender has told you they submitted the file to CHFA, you can click on this right from the home page. There's a quick link, loan status information, and the page will tell you two key pieces of information. At the top in the red box, it'll tell you the current date of files we're currently reviewing. Okay, so as of yesterday, we were on same day turn time. Okay, so if a lender told you they sent a file before that, then you just go right ahead and go further, and we'll type in at least 2 of the 3 criteria, and we'll see exactly the status of that file. Hopefully you don't need this. We encourage communication with our partner lenders, but it's here if you need it. If you do need to do that lookup tool, you'll see that there's 3 fields: CHFA loan number, property street address, and zip code. We recommend for the most accurate results, because this is only searching the internal CHFA database of loans in process, okay? So the most accurate results will be obtained using the CHFA loan number and the zip code. Why? You can type in a street address, but what happens is, see my example here, 123 Main Street spelled out. If I type that in the search, but when the lender registered the loan on our system, if they typed in ST period, then I'm not going to get a match. It's going to say file not received. Okay, so just be aware of that. But that being said, there's only so many ways to type in a street address. Just gets a little more complicated with the condos and the unit numbers and all that. But to the lower right there, it shows you the possible results you might see. So you might see file not received. Either they truly did not send it to us, or they might have been a lien or delegated lender. Their name is in green on our participating lender list. And that way the file didn't need to come to us. So you wouldn't be referred to CHFA. Waiting for additional documentation from the lender. Our underwriter has attempted to complete the review of the file, but if they're missing something or documents provided raise more questions, like garnishment on a pay stub, and it wasn't addressed, we need to ask for that so we can complete our review. Hopefully you're seeing loan committed. The lender's getting an immediate electronic notification anytime the status changes. So we hope that you don't need this, but it's here if you do. And how do you access who are the participating lenders? So there's 2 features to access the participating lenders. These are the only lenders that can partner loans with our program. If you click on the quick link on the homepage, participating lenders, it'll open the list in alphabetical order. I know it's small, but in green at the top of that list there, it'll identify that the names below, if they're in green, they're delegated with CHFA and may not need to submit specific files to us. Another neat feature on there is the lender activity report. We publish an ongoing lender activity report. So every once in a while, I encourage you to review what lenders you're partnering with, okay? Because you'll see here, there are lenders that utilize our program much more frequently, and your buyer may be more likely to end up in a CHFA loan from a lender that uses the program more frequently. Just another tool. And we said that the CHFA interest rate will apply. Okay, the lender can't price adjust or charge anything else. We publish the interest rates on our website. On the homepage, there'll be one, as you see here as of yesterday, 5% residential program. If you click on that, that will be our government rate that we're usually showing on the homepage, but whichever one, just click on that blue box with the rate. The page below will open. That will show all the CHFA loan programs, the only loan programs that can be partnered with CHFA. The name of those programs in blue are all hyperlinks. You can click on them for more detailed information. And then going across, you'll see the corresponding interest rate. And then please note, going further, origination fee. We removed any points or origination fee. There's never any points or origination fee with any CHFA interest rate. We're just giving the lowest interest rate possible. Some things that don't affect an interest rate with CHFA that you may find very different when partnering loans with lenders outside of CHFA. Credit score, that just means that varying credit scores won't have different interest rates. It doesn't mean that credit score is not important, okay? CHFA has no additional credit score overlays. What has to happen, as always, is the credit profile has to meet the requirements of the first mortgage product. And if the lender chooses to have a credit score overlay, then that would apply. But CHFA has no additional requirement. The other things that don't change the interest rate are property types, number of units, or the amount of time it's locked for. So it's either approved to partner with our program and it'll get the corresponding rate, or it's not eligible. And we also have a dedicated page for our real estate agent partners to easily navigate resources that would benefit your role, including marketing materials. And then there's a handy one click away menu on the right-hand side of this page for you. And I'll show you what those marketing materials look like. Those are cool that you can use also. We also have a nice interactive, for more technically savvy people, if you choose to, an interactive resource mapping tool. Did you see the state of Connecticut there? You can expand that right down to street level, and you can see the menu tabs above where you can click on any town and see what the income and sales price limits are, which towns contain the federally targeted area census tracts, where our CHFA approved counseling agencies are for education. Just another feature. So another myth that CHFA is only for people with compromised credit. Again, the lender is reviewing the credit profile, has to meet the first mortgage guideline. And if the lender has any credit score overlay. So these are just some neat statistics. Last year, 46% of the files that came to us had a 700 score or higher, 6% had below a 640. Again, we don't have an additional requirement. We've never had an additional credit score requirement, but we've removed any overlays or barriers that we can. There's two ways that you can access the CHFA income limits. Again, these are going to be revised in just a few days on May 27th, but you can click on that resource map and access the information by town, or you can click on the traditional PDF list version. It's also available from a quick link from the homepage. And so you see in the blue columns there, there's two columns of income, okay? The income limit is determined by the location of the property and just the number of people that will be residing in that home. Then once you determine which income limit there applies based on 1 to 2 person household, 3 or more, it's only the income of the note signer, okay? Any and all sources of income only for the note signer must be within that income limit. Sales price limits always apply, may vary by town and county or targeted areas. And then at the bottom of the page here, I've snipped off the sales price limits and income limits bottom, just to show you in a list version which towns contain targeted area census tracts. Again, they'll be updated May 27th. We'll have a publication for you. So targeted areas, the federal government identifies areas in the state where they'd like to encourage additional home ownership, and we offer some additional benefits if your buyer's purchasing in one of those areas. There's currently approximately 20 targeted area census tracts in the state. If your buyer happens to purchase in those areas, whichever corresponding CHFA interest rate based on product they would be receiving, it will be automatically discounted by 0.25%. Okay, so as of the rate yesterday of 5%, it would automatically drop to 4.75. So regardless what it is, it'll automatically drop. The first time homebuyer requirement, so not owning a home in the last 3 years, is waived in targeted areas. You just have to remember they can't retain ownership of another dwelling at the time of the closing. Okay, and the income limits may be higher in the targeted areas than the surrounding towns. So how exactly do I find out if the proposed property is located in the targeted area? So on that resource map, it'll show you on the targeted area tab, it'll just show you the shading areas in towns. You can actually expand that down to street level and it'll show you the actual census tracts. And then I showed you the list version below here. But how do you find out the census tract of the potential property, proposed property for your buyer? It's a federal determination. So I go to this federal website, ffiec.gov. I'm going to type in the property address and I'm going to hit search for the census tract code that's going to populate. The format of how you type in the property address is very important. So please note how I've typed it in here. It's the street address, comma, and zip code. So CHFA has lots of villages and boroughs, and those can skew the results. So the most accurate results are using this format, just the street address, comma, and zip code. And then you can identify on our website if that specific census tract is in a targeted area. So what types of properties are eligible to be partnered financed by the CHFA program? So they include single family homes, townhouses and PUDs, condos. Condos are very easy. People make it complicated, but it's very easy. CHFA has no additional requirement. The condo complex must be approved or eligible by whichever first mortgage program your buyer is utilizing for financing. Okay, it has to start with the buyer because no buyer, property doesn't matter, right? So if you have a buyer that's only eligible for FHA financing and they want to buy a condo, it has to be approved or spot approval by FHA. Okay, Fannie and Freddie many years ago have shifted the responsibility that the lender reviews the condo docs. They're just going to certify to CHFA, it's approved or eligible, and that's it. Okay, multifamily homes, 2 to 4 units, as long as they've been residential properties for the last 5 years. That just means no recent commercial conversions, and newly constructed 2-family homes are allowed in targeted areas. So this shows you the mortgage programs, any of which your participating lender would need to be eligible by these agencies can be partnered with our program. And these are the only ones. So FHA, VA, and USDA are the government ones. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac each have a specific conventional product with an HFA prefix. So Fannie Mae is HFA preferred. The HFA prefix stands for Housing Finance Authority, or Housing Finance Agency, right, which is what we are, and Freddie Mac's HFA Advantage. They have some unique benefits, and they're the only conventional products that can be partnered with our program. Again, it is solely the responsibility of your participating lenders to blend all those guidelines, underwrite, and approve that file in compliance with all the programs. We also offer our specialty mortgage program marketing flyers. So check those out on our website, print them as needed, share them electronically, just review them for more information. So eligible borrowers may receive a reduction of 1/8% to whatever CHFA product they're using. So that includes eligible teachers, police officers, military, anyone in the household or the buyer if they're disabled, and anyone leaving a public subsidized housing program. So feel free to check that out on our website. We also relaunched a mobile home purchase program. It's offered on behalf of CHFA through Capital for Change directly. And that is a below market CHFA interest rate. So not growing enough housing here in Connecticut. So the mobile homes are getting more popular. They're difficult to find financing for, and usually interest rates are historically high. So check that out if needed. And we also launched, so this is new, a mobile home refinance program where eligible owners of manufactured homes may be eligible to refinance for 1%. That's been very popular. Another myth, there's really no benefit to partnering a conventional loan with CHFA, right? Wrong. So the benefits are, first of all, lower interest rate, right? CHFA below market interest rate, the PMI, the private mortgage insurance, which is required anytime someone's not putting down 20% on a home, right? It's significantly reduced just because of the unique benefit of partnering it with CHFA. And then, like we said, the CHFA second mortgage for down payment closing cost is only available if that first mortgage is partnered with our program. So this just shows you the cost, the significant reduced cost of that private mortgage insurance. So sometimes, the words might be like, okay, well, it's cheaper. Well, what does that mean? But we can all understand numbers. Who just wouldn't want the lowest payment possible? Going to have this for 30 years. It's going to expand their buying power. Every little bit helps. Okay. CHFA does have maximum income ratios, but they're recently significantly increased to 50% on any government loan. Okay, 50% income or debt to income. And that's, the lender supporting the file as they normally would, right? We want to set these people up to be successful, not set them up to fail. On a government loan, FHA, VA, or USDA, they can go up to 45% total debt to income housing ratio. And there's one exception to that. If there's an eligible teacher with active student loans and repayment, trying to offset that student loan challenge, if the lender supports that file, if there's a need, they could go up to 50% total debt to income on that one. $1,295 in total, any way they call it, are the only income fees that CHFA allows lenders to charge on a first mortgage. These are not third-party traditional fees like an appraisal, a credit report, and so forth. Any way that they call their income fees, application processing, underwriting, cannot exceed it. We review this on every file and would not accept the file. So your buyer is saving as much as possible. The other huge benefit is that second mortgage for the down payment closing cost assistance. That's unique to CHFA. Only available with that first mortgage partnered with our program. And I have a marketing flyer there on the website for that as well. Some of the big benefits, it can be used for a portion of the down payment, portion of the closing costs, interest rate 1%. This was a special we started last year and we're continuing it through December 31st. They have to be utilizing the maximum available financing by the first mortgage product. And please know, only if they're getting our second mortgage for DAP, we won't allow transactions where the sales price exceeds the appraised value, but on a first mortgage only, we will. Okay, so we know that's a challenge in this market. Okay, that DAP is truly a second mortgage, fully amortized monthly payment. Okay, it's not a grant, it's not forgivable. Just look at a couple quick examples, what it would look like if your buyer is utilizing conventional financing. Single family, condo, or PUD, that product finances up to 97%. So as long as they're there, then the lender can start to add in that DAP if needed for the remaining 3% for the remaining down payment and up to 5% for closing costs. If your buyer is purchasing a 2 to 4 unit property, first mortgage guidelines cap the financing at 95%, right? Can't change that. First mortgage requires borrowers contribute at least 3% from an eligible source. Can't change that. Then they could start adding in our DAP for the remaining 2% down payment and 5% for closing costs. There's a maximum assistance of $20,000. And then the government loans, you're probably familiar, FHA finances up to 96.5. Therefore, they can start adding in the DAP to get up to the 100% for down payment and 5% for closing costs. And if the buyer is utilizing either USDA or VA, those two products are 100% financing, so they don't need any down payment, but they can still use our DAP for a portion of the closing costs if needed. Homebuyer education, always a free resource with CHFA. This is a quick link from our website, from the homepage. If the loan is being partnered with our program, we do require at least one. So only one of the borrowers needs to complete the homebuyer workshop. They'll get a completion certificate. Certificate's good for 12 months. If they happen to close on a CHFA loan in 12 months, they don't have to take the class again. So each of the class topics has a detailed description. It'll tell you which ones are only for loans in process. And the first one, pre-purchase, is available for the general public. Send any of your buyers that would benefit from education, addressing what a lender is going to be looking for credit, getting their paperwork all together. Each one has a green button for a class calendar. When they see the sample of the calendar here, you can click on the date and time of a class they're interested in, and that'll give them the contact information of the counseling agency to register to attend. Like I said, CHFA is always and continues to provide an emergency mortgage assistance program. This is a loan program for existing Connecticut residents, homeowners. Just have them contact CHFA, may be able to help with an arrearage, also monthly assistance. If they qualify, we have dedicated staff to work with them. And we have actually just launched, just a few days ago, the federal program for the Homeowner Assistance Fund. We have a dedicated separate team for this. And this assists with eligible households in threat of foreclosure, specifically documents supported due to COVID, may be eligible to up to $30,000 in grant assistance, and the payments will be made directly to the mortgage servicer. Okay, so just have them contact CHFA. So our goal is not just to get them in the home, successful in home ownership, in any way possible to keep that home ownership. Let me check out if there's any, oops. Do I have any questions?
I have one question.
Hi, I have a question too.
Yes. Go ahead.
On the 1% DAP, is there a limit? Can it only be the 3.5% or can you go higher?
So couple things, it's capped at 20,000, but you can't bypass mortgage insurance. So for right now, and stay tuned because we're updating guidelines every day. So we're leaving no stone unturned. So this is something we're looking at also currently. So for right now, they have to be maximizing the loan to value available by whatever the first mortgage product. So if they're getting an FHA loan, FHA finances up to 96.5%, they would need to be at that first before they can start adding in our DAP, in which case, for an example, it would result in up to 3.5% for down payment assistance and up to 5% in closing cost assistance. So you can't waive or bypass the need for insurance.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hi, yes, I have a question. So I just wanted to know, thank you so much for all of this. This was really great, a lot of information.
No,
And I've
thank you
actually
for
been,
being here.
thank you. Yeah, I've actually been looking into this because I've had like some buyers come up to me and ask me about this. So this has been really helpful. One of the things, I mean, you already answered it, was the turnover time. It's normal. My other question is Chfa being used in this market, like with, you know, being a seller's market? And I wanted to like pursue it. And I had someone tell me, I had a lender tell me, oh, well, like at this time, it's just like not many people are looking at it. So I'm just like, oh, well, I'm just curious in like your experience and everything that's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
And thank you for that question, and sign up for that free CE class too, because I go over this in like 10 times more detail. But what
Okay.
I would encourage you to do, review our participating lender list, actually that lender activity report, which you'll have in a handout, and I'm going to send an updated presentation because we just had some changes yesterday. So, but look at that lender activity list on our website. You won't hear that term from the lenders that are using our program more frequently. You'll usually hear it from lenders that can't offer our program, right? They want your business. So certainly don't pursue a CHFA loan. I'll tell you anything negative. So does it necessarily matter how often you can use it? If it could help that buyer, you want the best deal for that buyer. And the beautiful thing is you're working with lenders no matter what. So when you work with ABC lender that's approved to partner with our program, if CHFA is not the right fit, they do all the same products without us. Okay, so if they can benefit from our program, they'll tell you. You don't know if you don't check. And if they don't qualify for our program for some reason, they still have all the regular products that lender, whoever's talking to you, can offer. So yes, we're seeing it, not as many loans as always. So a couple things affect that, right? It's just a challenging market, right? People are having to pay over price. So that usually means you have to have money, but we do allow that on a first mortgage. That's a recent update. All right. So we're trying to respond to the challenges as much as possible. So that same buyer in this market can pay over price and still get the benefit of a lower interest rate. Who wouldn't benefit from that? But they won't know if they don't check with a participating lender. Yep. And the other big thing that affects how many loans maybe we get versus not, rates are still fairly low. When rates are, I mean, we want to get into ages here, but my first mortgage ever was 13%. Okay, so now I know when rates are 5%, people are crazy, but in general, they're still fairly low. But if they are more traditional interest rates, then the gap from our interest rate is greater. So our financing is so much lower interest rate, right? So there's more benefit. But if it's easy and they never have to send a loan to us, it doesn't hurt to ask. I would really encourage you to look at that lender activity list and see who you're partnering with.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This is Kelly. Can I just jump in 1 second? I can't believe that I was actually able to make a phone call to Department of Banking and somebody picked up the phone. Oh my gosh. The Security Deposits Division, and they verified what I said, right? That you cannot exceed the total amount of security deposit, regardless of what you call it. So you can't charge an extra security deposit for a pet, but what you can do is charge a pet fee, which would be a non-refundable pet fee amount. That doesn't fall under security because it's not refundable, it's not returnable. And Department of Banking has no jurisdiction over pet fees. So there is no maximum that's set for the amount that can be charged for a pet fee. But again, remember that you can't call it security deposit. It is a fee, it's separate. So I just wanted to give that info to you guys. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No
Thanks,
problem.
Kelly. Rita, I did see a question come up in the chat. Can realtors take any of the homebuyer education classes just for their own knowledge and their own education?
Yes. So this is the guidance on the homebuyer education class. I would contact, go to the calendar, right, to select. That would be the pre-purchase one that's available for the general public that don't have an application in process. And I might say, I am Rita Bellinger and I may be interested in homeownership and I'd like to take a course. Okay. And this would be, no solicitation is allowed. No, let's say adding to the guidance that is being giving out, right, would be appropriate. So just to simply, take in the information as someone interested in homeownership. And there was there was a question, can you go back to the previous slide? I'm going to have this presentation for a handout sent out. And can you go over the PMI slides again? So that'll also be in the handout. It's just significantly reduced. The guidelines about PMI is no different if CHFA is involved or not. So just in general, anytime you're not putting down 20% on a home, it's got to have some type of insurance. If it's a conventional loan, requires private mortgage insurance. All the traditional guidance applies as far as when it has to, by law, come off in the normal course of payments, when the property reaches 78 or 80% loan to value. And some providers, on an individual case-by-case basis, have the ability, if they choose to entertain a request, to remove it any sooner than that with an updated appraisal. That's a case-by-case review that they can make a determination. But so no difference in guidelines regarding PMI, whether CHFA is involved or not, just the amount is significantly reduced, and you'll have that in your presentation.
I have a question.
Yes.
The buyers that are using the DAP program, and I understand that they have to meet requirements as far as they get to income ratio. What if they have like judgments where they were sued in the previous, they have like payment arrangements or something? Would they still be qualified for the DAP program, or would they have to have their previous judgments totally satisfied? Because I received mixed information on a situation like that.
Yes, thank you for the question. New update. So on first mortgages, it was always this way and it remains the same. As long as they're in an acceptable payment arrangement that meets the first mortgage program. That was always the case, okay? On the DAP, we have removed any additional credit, adverse credit restriction overlays. So a previous guideline was that we didn't accept payment arrangements, established payment arrangements if they were getting the DAP. We have removed any additional adverse credit overlays on our DAPs. So they're just also following first mortgage guidelines. If they're in an acceptable payment arrangement and it meets the first mortgage guidelines, no additional requirement for CHFA. Thank you so much for asking that.
That was the case a few months ago. Ooh, that was a headache. And what about with even with the down payment assistance, as far as like buyers getting verifiable funds? I had a situation where they wasn't allowing my buyer to use their EMV because they were saying that because they purchased a money order with cash. So a situation like that.
Could someone just repeat that? I couldn't hear the question.
Like, as far as like verifiable funds when it comes to like the EMV and stuff like that.
That is all first mortgage guidelines, nothing with CHFA.
Anybody else? All right, thank you all so much. It was a great presentation.
Very informative, very.
Thank you.
Just want to announce our last couple winners for the Fair Housing T-shirt. Marissa McHugh, who I think is here, and Nancy Nishbal, who is on Zoom. And the winner of the $100 Visa gift card is Edward Taddy, who is also on Zoom. So congratulations. I'll be in touch with the people on Zoom. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.